How I fought my way out of a toxic marriage. I was 27 when I got married. Like most women in their 20s, I was thrilled about finally taking that next step. The excitement, the dreams of building a life together, it all felt so perfect. I met my husband and his family through a connection between our grandparents. We didn't know much about each other, but we said yes. In the beginning, it all seemed fine. We texted, had phone calls, and shared little things about ourselves. But looking back, it was easy to pretend during those initial months. I won't lie, I also put up a facade at times, but I was honest about the important stuff. The first few months after the wedding were happy enough. Sure, there were the usual adjustments: wake up early, help in the kitchen, fulfill family responsibilities. It wasn't easy, but I set a routine, trying to fit into the role they expected of me. I had mentioned to my husband before marriage that I wanted to continue working, but apparently, that dream of mine got lost in translation. My father-in-law made it clear early on: your mother-in-law will handle the house, your sister-in-law has her business, and we men are busy running our family enterprise. You, as the daughter-in-law, should focus on the household chores. His words were like a slap to my ambitions, but I didn't react. In the early days, I was dazzled by the material perks. We went on luxurious trips abroad, celebrated festivals with expensive gifts, and enjoyed the perks of chauffeur-driven cars. But beneath all the glitz, I started to notice cracks in their perfect facade. They had a subtle yet cruel way of shifting the blame onto me for everything. If something went wrong, somehow it was my fault. They'd sugarcoat it, saying things like, "Destiny brought you to us," or "We spent so much on the wedding and look how little you brought to the table." Every festival came with unspoken demands from my mother-in-law, gifts that had to meet their standards. Without a job, I had no way to fulfill these expectations. Even when I tried to work, they made sly comments about how a proper daughter-in-law should focus on the house. Eventually, I found a job close to home. I knew they wouldn't be thrilled, but I stubbornly took it anyway. It felt like a small victory. I juggled the job with my household duties, waking up early to cook, cleaning during breaks, and ensuring everything was perfect. One night, my husband fell ill. I took care of him as best I could, but the next morning, he accused me of caring more about my stupid job than him. That broke me. In my frustration, I lied and said the company had laid me off, just to avoid another fight. When he found out I'd quit on my own, he stormed off to his parents, reporting everything like a child tattling to the teacher. Heated arguments followed, but I mostly stayed quiet, crying alone as he walked away from unresolved fights. It wasn't just him. His parents' relationship was far from perfect. My father-in-law would scream at my mother-in-law over the smallest things. My sister-in-law wasn't any better. During one of our trips abroad, she mocked me, asking why I'd never traveled internationally before. The emotional toll of their behavior was devastating. When I lost 2 close family members to illness, I desperately needed support. Instead, my husband assumed I was asking for financial help and dismissed me entirely. I stopped sharing updates about my family with him. It wasn't worth the disappointment. The breaking point came when my mother fell seriously ill and was diagnosed with a life-threatening disease. She needed me, her daughter, by her side. But when I asked to go home, my husband refused. He gave excuse after excuse, even suggesting my mother hire an attendant instead. That was it. I couldn't take it anymore. I put my foot down and left to be with my mom. Their reaction? They tried reconciling in the most manipulative ways. First, they appealed to my emotions, claiming we were meant for each other. Then they used materialism, saying their generational wealth would be mine if I stayed. Finally, they resorted to blaming my mom, accusing her of not caring about their health, despite her efforts to check on them. I saw through it all. Their family ran on appearances and materialism, not love or compassion. When I suggested divorce, they insisted I return to their city to discuss it. Knowing their manipulative ways, I refused. Instead, I filed for divorce in my own city. I'm aware of their power and connections, but I'm ready to fight my way out of this nightmare. Staying in a bad marriage isn't the solution, not in this generation. To anyone in a similar situation, please know you're not alone. You deserve better, and you're strong enough to walk away.